Hi everyone, this is Natalie with Champion of Coins Tarot. I hope that you all are doing very well today. I am here to, first and foremost, film an apology video, and second, to have a discussion about fake tarot decks and to provide a resource to you to help you to spot the difference so that you do not make the same mistakes that I have made. Of course, the deck in question is the Fantastical Tarot by Natalie Hertz. So I purchased the first copy of the deck in June of 2022, and I used it consistently. This is seriously a deck that I go to every single day for guidance, advice, support. I was getting ready to film a full walkthrough and review video on my channel, and it was when I was doing that research that I realized that there were glaring inconsistencies between the box on the first copy that I had and the actual promotional material from US Game Systems. And I went to eBay. I was able to find another copy of the deck that did match all of the resources that I could find online. It recently came in the mail and was able to confirm without a shadow of a doubt that the first copy of the deck that I had was fake. So I want to apologize to all of you because honesty and transparency are so important to me, and I would never knowingly purchase or platform, especially a fake tarot deck to all of you. I believe that fake tarot decks are a crime. You know, these are products that are being illegally made. They are blatantly ripping off copyright by the original artist or by the original company, if this is a mass market. It also, even if folks are making copies of out-of-print decks, I still believe that it goes against the artist. It doesn't have respect for their integrity or for the way in which they wanted their artwork to be packaged and to be presented. So that's that. Going forward, I absolutely am not going to share the fake deck on the channel anymore. When I talk about Fantastical Tarot, I am of course going to be using and referring to the real copy that I was able to get a hold of recently. But you know, I've been reading tarot for almost 10 years, and this is the first fake deck that I've ever gotten. And I think part of why it took me so long to realize was, number one, this is a deck that I have just loved forever and wanted for a long time. And even though I was a bit nervous about it, even when I first got it, there were some things that the forgery got right that dissuaded me from investigating further. And I think that we have this conception about fake decks being very obviously cheap quality. I'm thinking of like all of those fake Wild Unknown decks that came out around 2016 that were on literal printer paper, or the ones that you see now where the box is very, very clearly a completely different make and quality of material. Maybe there's a QR code on it instead of a little white book that it comes with. You know, these are like the very obvious flags that we think about, but there are definitely more subtle ones that I was not aware of. And so again, I want to be able to take this experience that I had and be able to transform it into a learning experience for all of us to be better informed and for all of us to be able to make conscious choices when purchasing, especially on the secondhand market. So without further ado, I'm going to do a very in-depth look at the differences in the boxes between the real and fake versions of the Fantastical Tarot. Going to be looking at the little white books, the cardstock, and the image quality. My hope is that if you are interested in this deck, this will help you to be able to discern, again, between the real and the fake. And also, I hope that some of the tips that I share will be more generally applicable. So even if you are not interested in this title, but you are concerned that a deck that you are looking at online, or maybe one that's in your collection is not legitimate, this can help you to be better informed about that as well. So let's go ahead and dive into the differences. So Fantastical Tarot was first published in 1999, again by US Game Systems. I'm not sure when it went out of print, but definitely has not been available for the last 10 years or so. When looking at the fakes that are out there, there are several things that they do right. Number one is that they have very clearly matched the original cover art with the Queen of Wands and the butterflies on the front of the box. It maintains this teal turquoise background color and the gold font, and it also has the original US Game Systems logo on the front. However, the main differential is going to be the color. So the original copy of Fantastical Tarot on the left here has a much darker blue background, and there's a little bit less detail in terms of the background artwork, whereas in the fake copy, it's a lighter coloration. It's almost like they have kind of turned up the contrast a little bit, so that way when you look at particularly the background behind the Queen of Wands image, there's like these trails of smoke in the original artwork that are almost unnoticeable on the original copy, whereas on the fake one, those are very clearly more pronounced, just up at the top right here. So it's strange. It's like a slightly lighter coloration that allows you to be able to see more of the detail, which was present on the original artwork, but not to that degree. If we look at the tops of the box, we'll also notice that the fake version of Fantastical Tarot is slightly taller than the original deck box. And again, same coloration, however, the Fantastical Tarot is definitely much darker turquoise. The gold is also much more vibrant and almost has this metallic sheen to it, whereas the coloration on the top of the fake box is a lot duller. What they did get right is that they have the original publication information, so saying that the deck was produced in Belgium, although I suspect that this one was actually produced in China, and it has the actual mailing address, the original product code, and the real ISBN number from the original deck. On the bottom as well, you also have the original ISBN number and barcode reproduced. And this is what got me, because usually when I purchase decks secondhand, I will check to make sure that the ISBN number is legitimate. That was always kind of my go-to fail-safe, but clearly in this instance, that was not enough to be able to actually confirm the deck's legitimacy, because they reprinted it exactly as what was on the original box. Now let's look at the sides of the decks, because that's also where we're going to see some differences. So as we can see, again, same coloration, except that the fake copy is much duller. The text is out of alignment. So it has Fantastical Tarot and Natalie Hertz's name printed in the middle, whereas on the original copy, this is moved up to make room for the classic US Game Systems logo. US Games does different variations of the logo. So you can see, for example, this is a real copy of the Aquarian Tarot. So the Fool is still there, but definitely just the black silhouette without any kind of background, as opposed to the older US Games logo, which was a white Fool on a black background. But, you know, there's still very, very clearly a logo there, whereas on the fake, there absolutely is not. And then I'm gonna go ahead and tilt this to the side, so that way we can clearly see the text on the side of the box. So US Games, they'll often publish a blurb on the right side of the box like this. We can see that the text is exactly the same between the two, but it's much darker. It's like a black color on the original copy, and it's also framed by butterflies, whereas the fake copy is written in gold that almost blends into the background color, and there are no butterflies present. Also, I just want to note that both of these decks were purchased secondhand, so any of like the dings and the scratches that you see on the box, that is not an indication of whether it's real or fake or not. That is just a remnant of the long and storied lives that these decks may have led before coming into my collection. So those are the boxes. Now let's go ahead and get into the little white books. And this is another red flag that I overlooked because the real's on the left and the fake is on the right. So we can very clearly see that there are issues with the printing quality here. This should have been another red flag for me, but because the ISBN number checked out and because I had my hard eyes on, I had my rose-colored glasses on, I powered through. Printing errors can happen in little white books, but not to this degree. There is still a higher level of quality control that you can expect from a mass market deck. So, be that as it may. The other major difference here is that in the original, hopefully that can focus a little bit more for us, has copyright information, it has the original ISBN number, it has the contact information for US game systems. This fake little white book has almost the exact same information in the front, except we'll note that the email address and the website for US games are clearly missing. I guess in 2022, they figured that nobody would be writing a physical letter or trying to, call or fax a company to lodge a complaint against a fraudulent deck. But who knows? Other than that, the guidebooks are basically the same. They are both 48 pages, 45 of text with 2 pages of notes in the back, and then product information. But again, we can especially see with this Venus spread, more errors in terms of printer quality. So that's the book. Now let's go ahead and move these guys out of the way so that way we can take a look at the cardstock. So again, real is on the left, fake copy is on the right. So again, these are very, very similar. In fact, they are almost identical to one another. We have the same dragons printed on the back with virtually the same image quality. The only thing that I would note, and it may be a bit difficult to be able to pick up on camera, but the artwork in the real version is slightly lighter in coloration, while the fake copy is just a little bit darker, a little bit more saturated in terms of coloration. The cards are also very similar in size. However, if we layer them, we can see that the fake card is slightly larger. It has a much bigger corner on it, whereas the real copy has more of like a blunt cut to it, which is kind of interesting. And then if we're talking about cardstock quality, both feel like US games, but the real copy is much thinner. So for comparison's sake, I have my 1996 edition of Navigator's Tarot of the Mystic Sea, which is also on this thinner, older cardstock. It feels really nice. It's matte. The shine is just a result of the overhead lamp, so it's not glossy by any means. It feels really nice to shuffle with, but it is on the thinner side. And also, if you don't have an older deck to compare to, it has the same kind of cardstock as the US Games version of the Thoth. So again, slightly thinner. That's all good. Whereas in contrast, even though this has the same feel, it is a much thicker cardstock, and that makes for a much thicker deck overall if we were to compare the two of them together. And I would almost, because US Games has varied their cardstock a little bit over the years, so I would compare this to like Deviant Moon level cardstock, where it still feels very nice, it's very high quality, it's just thicker than other US game system stacks. And this obviously, you know, is not, it's fake. But if that's a good way to compare, I would say if you have any older US Games cardstock that you could compare, or if you have Deviant Moon cardstock to compare, to your copy of Fantastical Tarot, those are going to be the absolute best points of comparison for you. I'm going to go ahead and flip the cards over and look at some of the major arcana images. I'm not going to be doing a full flip through of this just because that would take a very long time. And also because, just like with the card backs, the quality of the images on the fake is really, really good. It's very, very good. And it's only in the subtleties that you can really tell the difference. The main one being the border on the cards. So the gold is the same color, but the framing is different. The real copy has a black border, and the fake one has this dark kind of brown gold. It's kind of like a sienna color. And in terms of the colors, we can see that the real artwork is just a little bit lighter than the artwork in the fake one. It's almost like, again, they turned up the saturation just a little bit. They turned up the contrast just a little bit. We can see here the Magicians. This is probably the card where it's most evident. And ooh, I should mention for the backs, the Magician card is on the back. So if we can compare artwork here, very blue, very light, very vibrant, whereas the Magician in this deck is almost like purple or periwinkle in tone. And we'll also note that there's no website listed on the back of this as well. So yeah, the Magician is kind of the most egregious version, but the rest of the cards are really very similar to one another. Again, it's only these subtle differences. Like the Empress, again, it kind of has this purple periwinkle cast to it in the fake version, as opposed to the very light, bright blue on the real version. The Emperor, you know, the shadows are much more pronounced in his hair and his beard. Very similar, but again, just a little bit lighter, just a little bit darker and more shadowy in contrast. So again, not doing a full comparison, because again, the artwork is very, very similar, just trying to give you an idea of what to look for. Light and bright versus dark and saturated. That's the main differential happening here. So that is a quick guide to telling the difference between the real legitimate version of the Fantastical Tarot by US Game Systems and the new fake copies that have been flooding the market over the last year. So in summary, again, if you have this deck or if you have another US Game Systems deck and you want to tell if it is real or not, the main points of comparison to look at are going to be the box. Is the US Games logo on the box? Does the artwork on the box match the product image? Is the contact information for the company correct? And is it consistently printed on all aspects of the box? Little white book. How's the little white book quality? Are the images clear? Is the text and information the same? Is the contact information on the first page the same as what is listed for other decks by that same company? For cardstock, again, and this is going to be very particular to the deck that you are looking at. Also, the era in which the deck was originally printed. So in this case, because this is a deck from the 1990s, it is going to have much thinner cardstock compared to the thicker US Games cardstock that exists today, which is what the forgery was based on. And then for artwork, are the images consistent with what you see online? Is the quality good? Is the color and saturation different? Does anything look brighter or look darker than it should be? Are the color values off? Those are all ways that you can be able to tell if you have a real or a fake version of a tarot deck or not. And in conclusion, again, I want to express how sorry I am. It was an honest mistake, but this is a serious issue nonetheless. And if you have any questions for me, or if you would like any additional resources, let me know. I know that Lisa Papaz and Logan from Larkin Legend have recently put out YouTube community posts outlining these same kind of checklist items. So I'm going to leave those listed for you below as well. We are all in it together, guys. Just keep your eyes open, do your research. If you see something that might seem too good to be true, even if it is an out-of-print secondhand deck, take the time to do your due diligence before purchasing to make sure that we are supporting artists and creators whose work is currently in print, and that we are also honoring the vision of those artists and creators even when their deck is out of print. So thank you for taking the time to listen. I hope that you all have a wonderful day, and as always, I am sending you much love and much light on your own path. Take care. Bye.